It is good to see all of you here. Thanks for taking the time in the middle of a Thursday afternoon. Bill's playing hooky from a Presbyterian Mission Agency board meeting, I think. Is that correct still?
Yeah, and that's okay.
So happy to have him. And it's okay if I call you Bill?
Please do.
I'm not sure what Bill's title is because it changes every few months, it seems like, depending on the restructuring of the Presbyterian Mission Agency. But he is basically our connecting point for all things Presbyterian Mission Agency. So if we need resources or we need to communicate something or they need to communicate something to us, Bill's the one that will funnel that information to us and keep us apprised of all the great stuff that's happening there. And he can tell you his title here in a second, but I'm basically going to turn it over to him. The Matthew 25 invitation is something that has been strongly pushed by the Presbyterian Mission Agency. We have 2 congregations already that have accepted that invitation. Our congregation in Wilmore and Pisgah Presbyterian Church in Versailles are the 2 that have. And we're hoping to have a few more step in and accept the invitation. And as a presbytery, we'll be also considering doing that as a presbytery at some point. So I'm going to turn it over to Bill. I'm going to put you on speaker view and pin you so you can be full screen for everybody. And okay. I'm going to let you rock and roll.
And if you could be sure that I'm set up so I can share my screen in a few minutes, I'd appreciate that. Well, it's good to be here. It's good to be with you. I apologize for running a little late. I think there was a number missing from the link I copied, but anyway, it's neither here nor there. But I am Bill McConnell. I'm a ruling elder, and I serve at Highland Presbyterian Church in Louisville. And my day job is as a mission engagement advisor with the Presbyterian Mission Agency. I'm responsible for the for the synods of Living Waters, Mid-America, and Lakes and Prairies. So I've got 35 presbyteries that stretch from the Gulf Coast up to the Canadian border. And so I'm sort of the middle part of the country. And what I do is I offer, as Philip mentioned, I'm kind of a conduit. I'm the one that if you've got a question, I look forward to being able to answer the question. Or if I don't know the answer, I can certainly find somebody that has the answer. We're working from home these days. As you see, you're in my home office. But were we in the building, I would say to you that if you're having trouble reaching somebody at the Presbyterian Center, just call me because I have no shame and I know where they work. I have no compunction about sitting at somebody's desk and waiting on them. That doesn't work now because we're working from home. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the Matthew 25 invitation because it's something that is I think taking hold within the church. I've got a little PowerPoint that I'll start with and then just open it up for some questions. So I'm going to share my screen. While I'm sharing the screen, I won't be able to see you, but if somebody needs to stop me, just let out a yell because I may not be able to see you, but I'll certainly be able to respond to you. Let me make sure I've got my sound on, and let's get to this PowerPoint. Is everybody seeing that? Everybody all right? Okay. So what we're talking about is Matthew 25. And if you're like me, I grew up I'm a lifelong Presbyterian. Grew up in PCUS in Charlotte. And but I'm also a musician. And so most of my time growing up, I spent the Sunday school hour getting ready to play for a worship service or something like that. So when somebody said it's in Matthew 25, I admit I had to go look it up. I'm not one that can jump right on those references. But the portion of Matthew 25 that really is the center of this invitation is the portion where Jesus is separating or where the king is separating the sheep from the goats, and the question, when I was hungry, you gave me food. When I was thirsty, you gave me water. When I was sick and in prison, you visited me. And they said, when did we do this? And he said, when you did this for the least of these, my family, you did it for me. And that's the portion that we're talking about. There are two other parables in Matthew 25, and it's a tough chapter, I will readily admit. But a little bit of background. In 2016, General Assembly was meeting in Portland. And I don't know if you remember the Portland Assembly. Boy, I remember it. It was a hot one. It was a very contentious assembly, and lots of arguing. In fact, I had a conversation with some new worshiping communities folks, and their question to me was, well, prior to 2016, when you adopted Matthew 25 as the guiding principle for the church, what were you doing? And at that point, we were doing a lot of fighting, and was in the midst of lots of controversy. So at that assembly, a group of presbyteries, including the Presbytery of Cascades in Portland, and Presbytery of Hudson Valley in New York, and Shepherdson Lapsley in Alabama, came together with a commissioner's resolution to designate Matthew 25 as the guiding principle for the church, and use that as a way for us to start thinking about who we are as God's people. After the 2016 assembly, it continued. We didn't talk much about it. It was just out there, as sometimes happens with General Assembly overtures and resolutions. But in 2018, it was also affirmed. And at about the same time, Diane Moffat moved in to her new position as president and executive director of the Presbyterian Mission Agency. She was handed a mission work plan that included 3 basic thrusts. And those thrusts were congregational vitality, dismantling structural racism, and eradicating systemic poverty. And in some discussions early in her tenure, that it became obvious that those 3 portions of the work plan and Matthew 25 fit together, because one of the leaders in leadership cabinet said, "Hey Diane, we've got this resolution from General Assembly that would be a Matthew 25 church. Don't those work together? Isn't there synergy there?" And so that's where it was born. So the purpose as we've developed it is to connect and unite the PCUSA in one mission. We do a lot of things, and if we look at our mission, a large chunk of what we do really can be brought under the umbrella of building congregational vitality, eradicating systemic poverty, and dismantling structural racism. It's meant to celebrate and to call forth a lot of what we're already doing. We're very careful to refer to this as a Matthew 25 invitation, not as an initiative. Initiatives have check boxes, and they have all kinds of benchmarks. This is a way for us to say, here are the things that we're already doing. Here's some ways we can celebrate what we're doing. Here are the ways we can challenge ourselves to be more of who God called us to be. And then, by the same token, clarify our self-understanding of what it means to be Christians within the PCUSA. And the bottom line is, what we do matters to God. As I said in Matthew 25, "As you did unto the least of these members of my family, you did it unto me." Or as Jesus said in Matthew 7, "Those who hear the words of God and do them, they are like the person who built their house on a rock." So the 3 portions, the 3 focuses are dismantling structural racism, eradicating systemic poverty, and building congregational vitality. Now, I will admit here that I've changed the order of these 3 because, in my opinion, and what I see and what I've done, what I see is that as congregations engage in dismantling structural racism and eradicating systemic poverty, the congregation's vitality increases. As they are working to minister outside themselves, they become more vital, they become more energetic, and become more effective at the rest of their ministry. So what are we talking about when we talk about structural racism and white privilege? What we're talking about are laws, policies, and practices that structure, reinforce, and perpetuate discrimination, bias, prejudice, and oppression of people of color. Now, I grew up in the South. I went to a high school that was very involved in the desegregation work that was done in Charlotte in the mid to late 1970s. And I don't think any of my family were KKK members. We were certainly in a part of the country where that was prevalent, but I don't think we were. And I don't know that any of my family had held slaves, but it is entirely possible. But the bottom line is that we all have benefited from the structural racism that's baked into our system. And so even though I wasn't responsible for what was done back then, I do have a responsibility now to begin dismantling that and to fix what's broken. Not an easy process, not a quick process, but one that is certainly worthwhile, and that we believe Jesus has called us to. It's systemic poverty, the economic exploitation of people who are poor through laws, policies, practices, and systems that perpetuate an impoverished status. Now, lots of congregations and lots of groups work on the symptoms of poverty. There's nothing wrong with food banks. There's nothing wrong with meals that we serve many churches on a weekly basis, or even more often, to those who are in need. Those are extremely important things. But what we're looking at here is to go beyond that and look at the structures. As Diane Moffat often says in her presentations, if you're walking along a stream and you notice that one fish has washed up on the shore, you wonder what's wrong with the fish. But if you walk along that same stream and a school of fish have washed up on the shore, you wonder what's wrong with the water. So we're not only talking about what's wrong with the fish, why are the people poor, the realization that people are poor, but then also what's wrong with the water, what's wrong with the system, why are they poor to start with, why do they need the food bank? And so that's the second step, and probably the more complicated step in addressing systemic poverty. And then to address congregational vitality. And we talk about vital congregations, vitality in congregations does not necessarily mean size or budget. In the old days, we used to talk about the ABCs of church vitality, and that was attendance, buildings, and cash. And today, I believe that when we talk about vital congregations, we talk about congregations that A, have an awareness of who they are, what they are, and why they're doing what they do. B, have bravery to try new things, bravery to understand that some of those things will work, but some of them might not. And then C, a sense of call, knowing that God has called them to a certain place in a certain time, and that they're there to do a work in that place. And then that church can honestly look at itself and say, if we were to go away, if we were to close, somebody would notice. Because if you can look at a church and say, if this church closed and no one but the people that attended the church would even notice, there's a conversation that needs to happen about that congregation's vitality. So I want to move to a short video that Diane Moffat put together, introducing Matthew 25. I've shared my sound. I'm hoping that you will be able to hear this. The Zoom is sort of touchy on these sorts of things, but this is Diane Moffat.
Matthew 25 calls us to actively engage in the world around us. Hello, I am Diane Moffat, Executive Director and President of the Presbyterian Mission Agency. Matthew 25 provides a sound biblical and theological basis for the Presbyterian Mission Agency's focus for 2019-2020. That focus is threefold. 1, building congregational vitality. 2, dismantling structural racism. And 3, eradicating systemic poverty. I want to share with you our bold vision and invitation to all mid-councils and churches of the Presbyterian Church USA to become a Matthew 25 church. You can help our denomination become a more relevant presence in the world Matthew 25 will help us to connect and unite the PCUSA, creating a spark that energizes and joins us all in our common mission together. It will help us to celebrate and call forth churches that actively engage the world, and help us to see and understand who we are as Presbyterian Christians. We are saved to serve. The Matthew 25 invitation focuses on verses 31 to 46, the parable of the sheep and goats, in which Jesus makes clear that what we do to the least of these matters to God. The principle of Matthew 25 is active engagement in your community, in your congregation, in our world. We must put feet to faith, hands to hope, and legs to love. Matthew 25 is a living translation of Jesus Christ, strengthening relationships, transforming our church, and bringing alive our commitment to serve God's people in our community and around the world. So, how do you become a Matthew 25 church? It's easy. Go to the website, pcusa.org/Matthew 25, and sign up your congregation to become a Matthew 25 church. You can select one or more of the 3 focuses to embrace in your community, or maybe you are already doing work around building congregational vitality, or dismantling structural racism, or eradicating systemic poverty. As you live out your faith and your commitment to Matthew 25, we ask you to share the impact that your pledge has made, how your congregation has changed, how you've discovered new passions and vitality, how your members have been re-energized as disciples. You can submit your impact stories on the website. There are already PCUSA congregations that identify themselves as Matthew 25 churches. We aim to help multiply this loving commitment to radical and fearless discipleship by partnering with the mid-councils and congregations. If you want to know more about this vision to act boldly and compassionately, serving people who are hungry, oppressed, imprisoned, or poor, please visit our website, pcusa.org/Matthew 25.
So the impact that we're looking for is an increase in spiritual energy for the congregations, increasing impact of the church in the world to increase new disciples and participation in ministry, and to ignite the PCUSA's witness and work. Again, to basically light a new fire within the church to go about doing what Jesus has called us to do. So as of today, Philip mentioned a couple of statistics. I'm going to throw some more at you, hopefully to encourage you in your consideration of this invitation. There are 636 congregations, 27 in Kentucky. I counted 3 in Transylvania Presbytery, but I can go back and look, Philip, and I'll verify that. I don't remember the exact congregations off the top of my head. 46 presbyteries, that includes mid-Kentucky and western Kentucky, and 5 synods, including the Synod of Living Waters. The goal is for each area of the church to have 20%, to begin, or have a goal of 20% participation, so that when the presbytery chooses to accept the Matthew 25 invitation, they're saying it's our goal to reach 20% of our congregations. For the Synod, its goal is that 20% of the presbyteries would accept the invitation. And then nationally, we would want 20% of the congregations. If you look at the number of presbyteries that have chosen to accept the invitation, that represents about 6,400 of our 9,400 or so congregations. And so that's where we are on that, in that continuum. There are resources that are available to help flesh out the Matthew 25 invitation, to give liturgical and theological background for it, to use it, to be able to use the truths that are in Matthew 25 to inform what you do within your church. There is a Bible study that was written, that Diane Moffett wrote, And then a new one that has just come out called The Gospel and Inclusivity that Samuel Sun wrote, who works in Diane Moffat's office. There is a liturgical guide, Worship in the Matthew 25 Church, that David Gambrell wrote. And then A Year with Matthew, which was done by the Office of Theology and Worship, particularly Barry Ensign George and David Gambrell, in using Matthew throughout all of the liturgical year. This happened to have been the year in the lectionary that Matthew was the gospel. And in fact, on November 22nd, which is Christ the King Sunday, the Reign of Christ Sunday, the gospel is the passage of Matthew 25 that we're talking about. And I'm in the midst right now of putting together a worship service that will be available to congregations online to be able to be used on that Sunday. That will focus on the Matthew 25 passage, or it could be, frankly, be used anytime. Another resource that just became available, Philip Morgan, who is the director of music at Central Presbyterian in Louisville, called David Gambrell one day and said, "David, there's not really a Matthew 25 hymn. Wouldn't it be cool if?" And for those of you who know David Gambrell, you know that he loves a challenge like that. So he recently wrote a hymn. I'm sorry that this is not real clear on your screen, but this and also the resources that I mentioned in the previous slide are available at pcosa.org/Matthew 25, and then look for the resource tab. But I thought you might want to hear this hymn. It's very singable, and you might want to use it yourself.
Help us each day to follow with us today. Send out your Spirit and show us the way. Jesus, be with us today.
And as I mentioned, that hymn is available on the website, on the Matthew 25 website. It's available. There's no copyright clearance needed. You have permission to use that, and it's available free for your use. So if your congregation would like me to talk some more, or would like me to get someone from a program area that could give you some more ideas about ways to live into the Matthew 25 invitation, please let me know. Also, there's lots of other information on the website, including background information, all sorts of resources. Also, links to stories from congregations and presbyteries that are have already accepted the invitation, and some things that they're talking about what they're doing. So let me stop sharing here, and if there's if you have questions or you want to have any thoughts, please let me know. Please bring them up.
Yeah, sure. Are there any questions out there that you'd like to ask for Bill? Yeah, go ahead, Bill. Reed.
Hi, Bill. I'm married to
Bill.
Mary. She says hi.
Hi, Mary.
You had that slide up there with the statistics. So many churches have signed up, so many presbyteries. And as you move to the next slide, momentarily, I swear, I thought I saw it. Momentarily, there was a thing at the bottom that said University of Pikeville
Yes.
has accepted it.
Yes.
Well, the irony is this very night, we're having a presbytery meeting to rule on the ordination of a fellow who's going to be serving the church in Pikeville.
Excellent.
So U-Pike has declared themselves to be a Matthew 25 congregation. Can you tell us a little more about that if you know anything?
I don't know the exact details. In a lot of cases, there are a number of universities, U-Pike, also Stillman College, and several others, where their campus ministries have accepted the invitation and are using that to work with their to do their work. So that's what I know. I don't know whether.
You mean it was probably more likely it was a vote of the campus ministry folks as opposed to the whole?
More than I would imagine it was probably campus ministry and not the full board.
Other questions you might have for Bill? Jim.
Yes, I was wondering, is there any curriculum or resources developed for children and youth?
I know that Presbyterian Publishing is working on some things. I'm not sure what the status of them is yet. Most of the things that were done within the mission agency were adult oriented. You're absolutely right about that. I know that that Presbyterian that the Publishing Corporation is doing some things. I can find out. I can get some links and find out from David Maxwell and some of those folks exactly what they're working on.
Okay. Other questions?
Thank you.
Bill, I think you may have mentioned this, but there are also webinar opportunities throughout the year. I noticed those come up, and those, you don't necessarily have to be a Matthew 25 church or have accepted the invitation to participate, but certainly those that have participated and accepted get advanced warning and get probably a more robust communication about those things than the non-Matthew 25 churches.
Well, and also there have been some online webinars that in talking about the various focuses. There's another one coming up on October 28th that will be addressing poverty from an international perspective. We did one on poverty from a domestic perspective, but realizing that trying to cover the United States and the international aspects, was just too much to do in an hour. There are links to the recordings of those on the resource page on the website. So you're welcome to look at it. There've been interesting interviews, some people that are engaged in Matthew 25 ministry, as well as some people who are within the program areas in the mission agency. So it's
Remind us once again, so if a congregation wants to accept the invitation, what steps do they need to take? How would they go about that?
They need to just make a decision and decide if they want to focus on all three of the areas, or if they want to just choose one as their primary focus. Then to go to pcusa.org/Matthew25, and on the right side of the screen there is there's a set of links. I'm sorry for that. I believe it's on the left side, but there's a button that will say, become a Matthew 25 congregation. And then below it is become a Matthew 25 presbytery. And below that is become a Matthew 25 organization. Because one of the questions that's come up is, what about new worshiping communities or fellowships that are not chartered congregations? And the answer is, please, yes. You're doing Matthew 20. They're doing Matthew 25 work. We want to encourage and celebrate that also. So the door is wide open.
Great. Other questions before we wrap this up and let Bill get back to that important Presbyterian Mission Agency board meeting?
I think they just went on. I think they're about to go on a break, so we're hitting it just right.
We did well.
Don't have to be back in there until 4. Life is good.
Gosh, life is good. Any other?
But they're going until 7, so that's that.
Bless your heart. Bless your heart. Been there, done that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, tell us one thing that Mid-Kentucky Presbytery has done since they voted to be a Matthew 25 presbytery.
Let's see. There have been a couple of social justice witness events at various congregations. John Odom, the general presbyter, and Jerry Van Martyr, who's the stated clerk, signed on to a letter with the stated clerk and Diane Moffett regarding the Breonna Taylor grand jury decision, and working with and there's also a weekly event going on where congregations are invited to come together on Zoom and just have some conversations, give each other ideas. I think one of the most important things about this is that congregations can say to each other, here's something I'm doing, and here's what really worked, and here's what looked good on paper but didn't really work in reality, and here are the happy surprises. So as other people try to emulate each other, it's a good way to do some education.
Bill, didn't the churches last week? I thought I heard this. That the Matthew 25 churches gathered on Sunday for about an 8-minute, 46-second kind of witness.
Well, that was an invitation from the whole presbytery.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. It was a presbytery-wide work. It was for the Matthew 25 churches.
Right, and some of the congregations are getting engaged in anti-racism work. Highland has stepped up its engagement, and Central Pres, of course, has been very active for a long time.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
Encouragement is there.
One final opportunity for questions, if anybody has any. Well, Bill, thank you very much for taking the time to do this. I know it's your job, but it's still, I appreciate the opportunity for you to do this via Zoom. Like I said, we've recorded this. We'll put this on YouTube, put it in our newsletter, and hopefully we'll have a few more congregations. I think for us to get to 20% would be around 14 or 15. Roughly, depends on the day, how churches are doing, but so that would be our target if we're going to do this. So just thank you again, and appreciate everybody who's come online.
Yeah.
And can I pray for you? Would it be okay if I prayed for you?
Please do.
Let's pray. God, one of the things we love about being Presbyterian is the connection we have up and down the structure of the church, and we're really thankful for Bill for his commitment to keep us connected to the larger church, to the work of the larger church, to the mission and the prophetic work of the larger church, especially the Presbyterian Mission Agency. And thank you for all those who have been called to that work. We know how important it is to take a big picture of what's happening across the church, and then allow us in this local context to be aware of the great work that's happening in Matthew 25 and all the other areas of mission and social justice and worship and theology and all the things that we do. We are stronger and we're better for the work we have up and down our structure. And so be with the board as they meet today, and be with Bill as he continues to support the presbyteries and synods that he's been assigned. We all pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thanks so much. And Philip, if you'd like to do this again sometime, or if you want me to, if I can
Be happy
if I can
to.
answer any questions, please just give a holler.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good to see everybody.
Thank you.
All right.